So, your favorite MMO's future is down the drain.
First time.
Well, let me be the first to say that really does suck, but I may have a solution for you. Guild Wars 2. Now, I won't sit here and tell you that my favorite MMO is perfect, that it doesn't have its flaws. Oh no, it certainly does. But I'd rather make the case that this is an MMO that you can have a home in and never feel like you have to no-life anything in the game. Let me tell you a couple of reasons that I really love Guild Wars 2, and hopefully it will convince you to at least give the game a shot. The game is great, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about one of the first things that I look at whenever I'm trying a new MMO, and that's the cost. To pick up the game and trial, it isn't going to cost you a dime. It's a trial. It's a free trial. And this free trial basically allows you to play the entirety of the core game for free. Now, it's called a trial because that's what it is. You do have some limitations when interacting with other players, the trading pro system, the character movement, and more. If I remember correctly, this was like done to cut down on the bots that were trying to exploit the game's in-game gem store, which I'll explain in a minute. The free trial allows you to have a couple of character slots and you can see what the game is like. And to put the cherry on top, there is no subscription cost in this MMO. You will never have to pay monthly to play Guild Wars 2. Once purchased, it's essentially yours forever. Now, I would be lying to you if the game doesn't monetize convenience. It certainly does. The gem store, or the in-game cash shop, has a lot of convenience that is locked right back behind a paywall that's sold back to you later. We're talking more inventory slots, some fast travel unlocks, material pouches, home instance farming, just to name a few. Not to mention the plethora of custom created cosmetics that are available in this game. And honestly, I joke, that's why there was such a large gap between the Path of Fire expansion, the second expansion, and then the third. It's because they spent all their time and money on the cosmetics in the game. I'm just saying, they couldn't get around to it. Now, there is one perk that I will say that once you have a paid account, you can actually earn gold in-game and use it to purchase gems, the currency of the cash shop. Then with those gems, you can buy the items that are on there. Now, to be fair, it's a bit grindy. It's a bit of a slog, of course, but you 100% have the option to do so if you choose. Having said all that, the cash shop is not pay to win because all the gear is essentially leveled out, which I'll explain here in a minute. You cannot buy items in the shop that will make you stronger than anyone else that could have just earned the pieces in game anyway. You cannot, however, buy major expansions in the gem shop, and this is where you'll start seeing some of the cost. The game has about 6 expansions added to it, floating between the cost of like $20 to $30 US individually. You can get the first two, Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire, in a bundle for about $30. But even with that being the case, you're still looking at about $150 worth of expansions that you can spend. Not to mention the side story DLCs that are in-game that are available content, but you have to use the in-game cash shop, buy gems to purchase the stories. Having said all this, each purchased expansion or side DLC story adds huge amounts of quality of life to your game, class expansions, and a lot more meaningful content. That it isn't just a new story in a new area. There are new ways to play, there's new travel options, you get to see the whole world in a brand new experience. My recommendation, if you're a new player and you're coming from New World, is play the free trial. If you like it, grab the first bundle of Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire for $30, and that will add in a total of 18 new elite specializations, nearly 10 massive zones, gliding, baseline mounts, all for that one purchase. From here, I would simply just recommend grabbing things that are on sale as they pop up. Like recently, the third expansion, End of Dragons, dropped nearly to like $20 if I remember correctly, and that can be expanded on even further. But what if the content is not current? Like a giant pile of sand that was just struck by lightning? Let me be clear. Every piece of content in this game, every expansion, is relevant. Even the damn starter zones have some importance, whether it is for earning achievements, fighting massive world bosses, or just exploring the zones. Each zone in every expansion has relevance, and that's important to note that even though Heart of Thorns came out in 2015, the massive meta event Battle for Tarir is still one of the most attended and living events in that entire expansion to this day. My point is that Guild Wars 2 capitalizes on the idea of horizontal progression, meaning that items, gear, and achievements that you earn stay. The level cap for the core game is 80, and that is still true even though they just released a brand new expansion, Visions of Eternity, last week. One of the best features of Guild Wars 2 is that everything you earn is still relevant, meaning a really good helmet that you earn in Heart of Thorns still works perfectly fine 5 expansions later. Instead of chasing slightly better gear, you are essentially chasing convenience, so let me explain. The best gear in the game is of legendary tier. Once earned, it is available on every character in your account that can use that piece of gear, meaning a legendary staff on my Elementalist can also be used on my Guardian. Legendary gear also has the best stat values available in-game that can be changed at free will at no cost. To be honest, to earn legendary gear, it is a bit of a grind. But if that grind is really not for you, you can earn the tier directly below it, which is called Ascended. Ascended gear has the same stat values as legendary gear, meaning they are the best stat values. However, Ascended gear does not have the convenience of being available for all characters who can use that piece of gear, and the stats that are on that piece of gear cannot be swapped for free. Essentially, once the stats are chosen, they are locked. But here's the kicker. You can actually even do about 90% of the game's content with the tier below Ascended, and that is the exotic tier. See, the beauty of this system is that if you want to work hard for these items, you certainly can, but by no means do you have to. Exotic gear can be earned incredibly quickly or purchased off the trading post. I mean, there's so many ways that you can get it very quickly, and it's really not all that expensive. And again, that gear carries value forever. Now, I know in New World there were new expansions dropping, and they raised the level caps, and the gear score grinds were there. And this difference may actually deter some players from wanting to play Guild Wars 2 because you don't have to keep grinding for better gear. And that's okay. Some players may not like that. But the benefit here that I see in Guild Wars 2 is that I never feel like I have to run on a treadmill to enjoy the new content. For example, I'm using the same gear and the same build setup that I had for 2 expansions now and loving it. Now, probably the most important thing for me whenever I'm trying an MMO is its classes. Now, I know the New World idea of classes shares some kind of similarities to that of Guild Wars 2 in the sense of like how your weapon dictates the playstyle that you have. But in Guild Wars 2, the classes uniquely keep their class autonomy in that regard. There are many different ways that you can build your character. We're talking from stats that you choose, to the weapons that you pick, to the traits and trait lines, to the skills you slot out. I mean, the build craft here is very deep. Not to mention throwing in elite specializations, which essentially take the core class and make it into something totally unique. And on top of that, each class uses a weapon in a totally different way from another, such as the Guardian using the Greatsword looks incredibly different than that of a Ranger using a Greatsword. And what makes this exciting is that each class that you play has its own identity, and it maintains that identity despite having vast amounts of customization. Now, there isn't any weapon mastery that you have to learn here, simply leveling will unlock all the weapon skills, but the classes in Guild Wars 2 all play in a unique way. For example, the class mechanic is different for everyone, and then adding the elite specialization, it makes them even more wild. Like the class mechanic for the engineer is for them to have a tool belt with a bunch of different sub-skills that change depending on your active skills. When you play as a Hollowsmith, the elite specialization from Path of Fire for the engineer, you instead trade your last tool belt skill for the Hollow Forge, which basically lets you go Super Saiyan to deal a whole bunch of damage in a very short window before burning out. And that right there is the beauty in this design. There are so many different ways that you can play the same class and it never gets boring. Also, as a note, the elite specialization groups are tied to the Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, End of Dragons, and now, of course, the Visions of Eternity expansions. So you will have to own them to be able to play these elite specializations, just as a PSA. If you liked pairing weapons and stats together in New World, then Guild Wars 2 is going to have so much available to you that you may never get bored. But what if you do? So this whole idea of me being the caffeinated dad isn't like a lie. Like, I have a bunch of kids and my free time is scarce. I actually didn't mind New World's model where you essentially pay to play once and you own it forever, which is cool. I like that kind of idea. However, the regrind for gear is kind of what turned me off later in my time of playing. Now, I love Guild Wars 2 for the idea that I will never fall behind. Oh, cool, a hot new game just released and everyone's playing it. Cool, Guild Wars 2 is still gonna be there and I don't have to worry about missing out. FOMO practically doesn't exist in this game, save for a couple of seasonal events that you have to catch. You will never have to feel like you have to play due to a sunk cost fallacy when you're playing Guild Wars 2. And regardless of what you do, everything will be available at a later date. Honestly, I took a break from playing Guild Wars 2 for about 1.5 years because I wanted to play other games and see all these different worlds that I was missing. And you know what? I came back and I didn't miss a beat. I've heard loyal Guild Wars 2 players who have played the game for a decade now, who come and enjoy the latest patches, play the updates for a few weeks, and then leave the game only to come back when there's more to do. You can play the game your way, and I can't tell you how much that means to me, how important that is to me. The game truly respects your time, and from an outsider's point of view, it didn't seem like New World did a bad job either. But eventually, burnout and boredom does hit everyone, and you can simply close out and play something else. Now, again, if I'm to be 100% honest with you, Guild Wars 2 does have its flaws. Sometimes the game can be grindy, like earning anything of meaning requires either a lot of gold or a huge time investment. The instance content, such as like ratings, fractals, strike missions, sometimes are really tough to get a groove for. Not all the time, but sometimes. PvP can be completely mismatched. Either you crush the enemies or you get crushed, and there's very little in between. But that's not really where the game shines. In my opinion, Guild Wars 2 shines really in the open world exploration. Seeing this massive world for what it has to offer. I'm talking immense boss battles, tough creatures to deal with, jumping puzzles, challenging open world events, and more. I mean, there's just so much to do. Earning a piece of legendary gear feels like a massive achievement. Creating a really unique build that fits the playstyle that you want to feels amazing. And the best part is that the game isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So that time and effort you put into this is going to be staying for quite a while. I will say that this is just strictly my opinion and my bit of why I enjoy this game, and I would hope that you would too. If you would like to get started in Guild Wars 2, you can check out this entire beginner's guide that I've created, and hopefully I can get you started out on the right foot. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.